Welcome to South Carolina Live, episode 34 at the Voice of College Football. I'm Walker Gaskins, and we have a lot to talk about today with South Carolina and all things college football. It's been very eventful since the last show. Players have entered the portal. We have some coaching drama with Sterling Lucas's departure, in case you haven't heard. And then as well, just a lot of things to look at. I'm especially excited about our run game. I'm going to be talking about that today. But first, before you do anything, please like the video, please share, please subscribe. It does nothing to hurt you. There's no commitment you have to make. All you simply have to do is subscribe, and you just get more college football content with a Gamecock focus on it. So I'm very excited today to talk about it. Make sure you follow my page on X, WG_Sports_CFB. It's in the white box right there at the bottom of the corner with my camera. I know we do weekly shows here, but on X, that's where you do see the daily and hourly updates, especially with the portal and coaching changes such as that. But without further ado, let's start the episode. Portal updates. Now, I'm going to go down a list of players who we have already established have entered the portal. Kicker and punter, Peyton Argent. Defensive lineman, Xavier Hardy. Amazon Littlejohn, wide receiver. Offensive lineman, Nick Sharp. Tight end, Michael Smith. Linebacker, Jerron Willis. And offensive lineman, Mac Walters. As of last episode, those were all the players that had entered the portal. However, there's three new people who are definitely want to discuss for a minute. Firstly, we have our right tackle, Kason Henry. He has entered the portal. He announced it earlier this week, a couple of days ago. I find it really interesting because when Randy Clements came in, it was clear there was no commitment or loyalty to a player just because they were on the offensive line last year. Randy Clements seems like a serious guy who's ready to get things done and be successful in Columbia. And certainly with the offensive line's production in the past couple seasons, Lonnie Teasley leaving for Nebraska, that was announced, I think, earlier this week. There's going to be some departures in the offensive line room. Kason Henry is one of the more notable names. He has certainly been one of the more well-known offensive linemen at South Carolina. Started, as you can see on my X post, all 13 games in 2024 and 4 games in 2025. If you're wondering why 4, it was due to an injury he suffered against Vanderbilt, and then I think it was a dislocated shoulder, a shoulder injury that he had against Missouri. He aggravated it, and therefore he was done for the season. So definitely a tough season for Kason Henry. I wish nothing but the best for him. I think he's a great player, and I can't wait to see him go be great. Next player, though, is Brian Rowe, wide receiver. So Brian Rowe, obviously, has been one of the younger guys at the South Carolina, part of the big receiving recruiting class we had last year, where we had a lot of young guys like Cyrus, Malik Clark, Donovan Murph, Brian Rowe, just a few of the young guys that came in. And now, obviously, with everything that happened with the offense this year and with the new offensive coordinator coming in, with the amount of talent at the wide receiver position, the young talent, the writing was on the wall that somebody or at least a couple of people were going to transfer. Brian Rowe happens to be one of them. But you could argue the thing about Rowe is he was one of the more productive young wide receivers, especially early in the season. I mean, you go look back at, I think it was the early in the Vanderbilt game, a little bit against Virginia Tech, and especially against Missouri. I mean, this guy, he kind of, for like half a drive at a time and in spurs and moments, he kind of anchored down the offense and helped them drive down the field. So it's definitely, I mean, it's not something it doesn't hurt too much because we have so many talented receivers who are young at the position. However, it's certainly, you never want to lose a guy like that with such a good upside, but nothing but the best for Brian Rowe. And then most notably today, this morning around like 9 o'clock, Aaron Noland, the transfer from Ohio State, who came in the offseason before this season after 2024 success. He was. It's very interesting what happened with Aaron Noland. He came in and everybody was like, all right, this guy was at Ohio State. A lot of upside, good size, good build. Definitely the backup quarterback. But as spring practice progressed, and then you saw it during the spring game, and then during preseason camp, I wouldn't know if it's not regressed in the talent wise, but definitely it felt like he regressed further and further down the depth chart. Now, he was still the backup quarterback officially. I mean, he came in for 2 games against, I think, SC State and Coastal. However, I mean, you were hearing a lot of stuff about Cutter Woods, the freshman, outplaying him. Beamer, every time he was asked about the quarterback room behind Lenora Sellers, it was always Luke Doty was a name that popped up. So it always felt like Aaron Noland never really solidified himself. Now, whether part of it was Beamer's loyalty to seniors and experienced guys like Doty, or whether he just didn't pan out yet as a quarterback, it's definitely interesting to see what happened. I don't think many people would have expected this to happen. But, I mean, you think about it, Lenoris is coming for another year. You have Cutter Woods, who, from what we have heard, and it seems like is outplaying Noland. And then you bring in the number 10th ranked quarterback in the country for the class of 2026, and Landon Duckworth, who's just a talented guy. Obviously, someone's got to go. And Noland was one of them. So now we have 3 scholarship quarterbacks at the moment. So best of luck for Aaron Noland. I think he needs to progress with the position a little bit before he can start. However, I'm looking forward to see him play. Now, that's all of the transfer portal updates. Now let's get to the coaching drama that has happened, specifically the past half week or so, and officially announced just a second ago. Sterling Lucas should be one of the most notable names besides the coordinators and Shane Beamer on the coaching staff for South Carolina. He's the edge rushers and outside linebackers coach at South Carolina. So Dylan Stewart, Kyle Kennard, Brian Thomas Jr., all those guys on the defensive line on the edge that were making big plays, all the stars you're thinking about, he's the guy who's recruited them and coached them at South Carolina. But originally when I was writing the notes for this episode, there was no official announcement yet. I have that in my notes right here. But just less than 30 minutes ago, LSU officially announced on X that he is now the defensive tackles coach at LSU. So Sterling Lucas has left Columbia. He is heading to Baton Rouge. Now, I know a lot of people are at a bit of a loss with this, and I'm going to be honest, I am too. It kind of baffles me how an Orangeburg native who's built his reputation as one of the best recruiters and developers at the edge and outside linebacker position in the country. Okay, I mean, you talk about premier coaches at that position, Sterling Lucas is in that conversation. I mean, you're doing it all in your home state, just maybe an hour away from where you grew up. So despite all of that, it's really strange to me why he would make a lateral move to LSU. Now, from what I've heard, money was not the incentive. I don't think LSU dropped, hey, here's like $2.5 million. Obviously not. I believe he's being paid $250,000 a year at South Carolina, or was being paid $250,000. But also heard a lot that South Carolina was working hard to keep him whenever they heard of this, whenever he announced it, that they were willing to try to compensate him, but it seems like he already had his mind made up. So not only the money, not only you're an Orangeburg, South Carolina native, but also you're not even coaching the position that you made yourself known for. You're coaching the interior defensive line now, which, I mean, I'm not saying he won't do a good job. I think he's a great coach. I think he'll probably do very well. But something isn't adding up with the situation. My gut's telling me something's not adding up. I don't know why he left, if it's just something personal. I don't know if Lane Kiffin sold him really well on something. I don't know what it is. But I'll be very curious to eventually learn all the reasoning behind his departure to LSU. But I mean, we can sit here all day and try to talk about the reasoning behind it. But let's focus on how this will impact the Gamecocks heading into this monumental 2026 season. Now, obviously, Lane Kiffin was trying to go for a 2-for-1 deal here, right? I mean, moments after Lucas's departure was announced unofficially, the buzz about Dylan Stewart leaving the Baton Rouge, I mean, it just blew up on X. That's all my feed was for probably half a day. It was crazy. And then, I mean, it's just I see LSU fans all of a sudden just in my page talking about getting Dylan Stewart. I mean, it was wild. And I mean, it makes sense from Lane Kiffin's perspective. This would be a home run for Kiffin, who's trying to elevate the Tigers' defense in 2026. You look at the past couple of years under Brian Kelly, except for this past season where he was fired, what was the main problem? The defense. And now you retain Blake Baker. And if you're able to bring in a guy like Dylan Stewart, who's already the head of this defense here at South Carolina, you bring him to LSU. I mean, that's just a slam dunk for Kiffin and co., right? So I understand the reasoning, and I think obviously it has some impact on Stewart. Now, in regards to Dylan Stewart, that's where the main focus is, especially from the Gamecock community right now. I'm not sure whether he'll leave or not. I don't think anyone really knows right now, except for him and his family. I'm not even sure he knows right now. And no decision from my knowledge has been made. But if I had to make an educated guess, I think he stays in Columbia. Now, obviously, you can call me a biased Gamecock fan. Go ahead if you want. But let me just pitch a few of reasons for you. So clearly, first off, 2025 was a rocky season, obviously, stating the obvious. But I mean, what benefits would there really be for Stewart if he headed to Baton Rouge? Now, obviously, LSU community has certainly latched on to the arguments I'm about to point out. Firstly, the relationship with Sterling Lucas. I mean, this is the guy who recruited him all throughout high school and brought him to South Carolina, has worked with him for the past 2 years. And Lucas was the spearhead in his recruitment. You're not wrong there. But I truly don't believe he would leave an entire city full of relationships, coaches, and players just to enter LSU. A completely different state, different culture, different town, different vibe, all because he knows one person who isn't even his position coach. If Dylan Stewart goes to LSU, obviously Sterling Lucas will be near him. He's coaching the defensive tackles, but he's not coaching him directly anymore. So you're telling me that he would uproot all his life just for one relationship? I feel like that's a little bit of a stretch to say. And also another point I've seen is the NIL factor. Now, of course, LSU could outbid South Carolina if that's what it came down to. And I've heard some rumors and buzz that Dylan Stewart is looking at the NIL factor of it. I'm not going to claim the validity of that or not, just saying what I've heard. But Stewart's already one of the highest paid players at Columbia. I think the only player that might be paid higher than him is Lenore Sellers. And from what the reports are saying currently right now, South Carolina is working hard to keep him here, which means he's probably would get even more money. And you look at how much money he's already getting from South Carolina, over $1 million. Would you really uproot your entire life for one season for some extra NIL money? Now, obviously, at this point with how college football is, you can make more money if you stay in college rather than going to the NFL. But does $2.5 million compared to $2 million or $2.25 million truly matter when you're probably 99% chance, unless something bad happens, God forbid, you're going to be a first-round draft pick, right? Does uprooting your entire life for one season really matter? Now, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to try to look into the psyche of Dylan Stewart. I haven't met him. I'm not going to try to speak for him. But I think if that was as big of a factor as a lot of LSU fans hope it is, then I don't think he would have came to South Carolina. Yet, I mean, you look at who was in the that final group of his recruitment process. South Carolina was in there, but also Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Miami. All programs could have outbid South Carolina by thousands, hundreds of thousands, if that's what it really came down to, right? Those are the premier levels of the sport when it comes to NIL funding. Now, Dylan Stewart obviously chose South Carolina. So I'm not promising that Stewart will stay. I'm not trying to speak for him, but that's my perspective. I truly trying to just take the bias out as a Gamecock fan because I want him to stay terribly. I really want him to stay. Just looking at it from just an objective standpoint, it doesn't make sense. If you ask me, it just really doesn't make sense from my perspective to depart from Columbia to Baton Rouge. Now, if you want to stay up to date on Dylan Stewart and also any other player with South Carolina football and more coaches, follow me on X, please. WG Sports _CFB. It's the white box at the bottom of the corner. That's where you get hourly, daily updates as things come out. So it's a tough loss losing Sterling Lucas. It's definitely something I didn't want. And it would be a huge gut punch again if Dylan Stewart ended up leaving. But I personally don't think he will. No insider knowledge, just my analysis of things. But just to dive a little bit back into Sterling Lucas for a second, I mean, obviously he recruited Dylan Stewart, who is one of the best recruits to come to South Carolina. But I'm just going to present just who he's recruited at South Carolina. This is going to impact South Carolina more than just potentially losing Dylan Stewart, right? I mean, the recruiting, obviously Shane Beamer is one of the best recruiters in the nation, no doubt. His coaching staff certainly has a knack for it. Look at the quality of the class they had, 2026. You finish 4-8. You get a 15th ranked class, 9th in the country nationally by average recruit ranking. I mean, that's just nuts. Just huge props to the Gamecock program for being able to pull that off. But, I mean, you look at guys that Lucas had a very big role, if not more so. You spearheaded the recruitment process for Dylan Stewart. You might know a guy by the name of Nick Harbor. Might know a guy by the name of Julian Walker, who just Dutch Fork High School. They just won another state championship under Tom Knotts. Flipped him from Michigan. Desmond Umeazulu, it's another guy. Grayson Pup Howard, who you remember came here for a year. 4-star linebacker, a lot of potential. Eventually transferred to Florida, is now in the portal again. Jaquavius Dodd, 4-star freshman edge, who was 5th in the state whenever he came to South Carolina. 4-star athlete, Jalewis Solomons, even had a role playing in Lenora Sellers and Jaden Sellers. If you look all the way down here, I mean, Lucas was a guy who not only recruited at a high level in his position, but also helped outside of his position as well. So it's definitely going to be something that it's going to be a loss, obviously. There's no other way to phrase it. But do I think Shane Beamer and co will recover? Obviously, they're some of the most talented recruiters I've seen. And I think this is going to be a minor setback, but if they can bring in the right guy at the edge position, at the edge coach position, then I think they will be okay. Now, we've been talking about a lot of defense. Let's kind of switch to the offensive side of the ball. The run game in 2025 was pitiful. You average 111 yards per game. Every 1st and 10 was a run up the middle. It was obvious. Even the fans could tell. Just a non-energetic, repetitive, obvious run game, right? I think that probably frustrated South Carolina fans more than any other part was the run game. How because of that you couldn't get anything else going because you couldn't consistently run the ball, which is one of the key points and key foundations that Shane Beamer has put in this program. So a failure to run the ball, it's been frustrating. 2025, there's been times where it's been frustrating in years past, and you've just had talented players like Rocket Sanders be able to bail you out on a lot of plays. But you bring in a lot of new offensive coaching staff. You bring in Kendall Briles, the new offensive coordinator. You bring in Stan Drayton, one of the best running back coaches in the country in my mind, who I'm very excited about, and I can't wait to see what they do in 2026. I think this is going to be a revival for the run game. And I just want to take an early look at what can change for the Gamecocks ground attack. What can change for the Gamecocks? Now, Kendall Briles, he's known for his fast-paced, heavily RPO using spread offense. It's not the spread offense exactly. It's a stems from the spread offense, a variation called the veer and shoot. This scheme, it does a lot of things that I personally like. It plays to the player's strengths, which is something we definitely should have done in 2025. They spread the defense out across the field horizontally and vertically with a lot of explosive chunk plays, and they use motions from the wide receivers, tight ends, and once again, explosive plays downfield to keep the defense on its toes. The veer and shoot offense, I've looked back at some of the things under Briles, especially some of the TCU things. One thing I noticed was you look at South Carolina's offense in comparison, it seemed like basically every down the defense already knew whether you were running or passing before you were even doing it. It just felt like all they had to do was defend. They didn't have to take any time when the ball was snapped to try to decide, is he running? Is Lenoris passing? It seemed like they already knew because we were obviously either running the ball on first down or 3rd and 15, and we obviously have to pass it. Right? Now, one thing I noticed about this offense under Briles is that the defense had to hesitate. They had to react post-snap. They didn't know automatically what was happening just because it was first down, just because it was 3rd and long. They didn't know. Now, this Kendall Briles scheme, it can force defenses to cover more ground via wide receiver splits, more spread out formations, which create natural running gaps and running lanes in the box for inside zones, power runs. That run that we saw from Matthew Fuller when he broke out for a touchdown against LSU, that can be more common under Kendall Briles than the more tightly knit, close together schemed offense the Gamecocks had in 2025, where you have 2 running backs between the tackles, you have a tight end coming in to block, and it seems like everybody's trying to cram in between the hash marks. I think that will change in 2026. Another factor, like I mentioned before, the heavy use of RPOs will have to make the linebackers and safeties hesitate. This past season, it felt like the defense already knew what was happening on 1st and 10 before the ball was even handed to the running back. This use of RPOs will force the defense to avoid a full commitment to the run in order to prevent big passes down the field. All right, you can't automatically just send 2 linebackers blitzing right to the gaps because you think they're going to run the ball or you think Lenoris is going to keep it. All right, if you do that, it might be a slant route. Lenoris takes it, throws it, easy 10-yard gain. Right, a lot of RPOs to make the defense hesitate and react post-snap rather than just being able to analyze the play pre-snap and knowing what to do. Speaking of pre-snap, a lot of pre-snap motion is used as well. Motioning wide receivers and tight ends can help confuse the defense and create mismatches on the perimeter, which is something the Gamecocks certainly need, considering in the trenches, we haven't done the best in matching up. Size, skill-wise, it seems like we're getting dominated quite a lot, especially in the 4th quarter, and that's certainly something that will help alleviate this issue if it still persists next season, is creating those mismatches where, you don't have to have the physically bigger guy. You have to go pound for pound every single play. Creating those mismatches is something that will definitely confuse the defense and create more opportunities for this offense. Now, another thing that will help the run game is a much more balanced pass and run threat. Now, obviously, Gamecock fans especially know this. You look at the play calling, especially when Shula was still the coordinator, every first down play felt like it was a run up the middle by Rasul Faison, right? And I'm not wrong when I say that. And when you look at the tapes from the Briles offense and other places, they don't just run the ball on first down, they pass it. And they pass it consistently. Now, the thing is, it sounds like a very simple concept, not always running on first down. But you look at the offense last year, clearly it's something that if we're able to do, which I think Kendall Briles will certainly be able to do, more call passes more consistently on first down and balance it out, it will prevent the defense from being able to commit extra bodies in the box on early downs, which not only helps the running back if you do decide to run, you don't already have 2 guys blitzing right up the A gap and B gap ready to get you, but also helps Lenoris as well. You don't have extra guys in the box coming for you immediately. That gives you more time in the pocket. If you need to get out in space, maybe like a bootleg, you don't already have guys in the backfield scrambling after you. So all of these things are going to help this run game. Simply, I haven't even got into just Stan Drayton, just simply Kendall Briles and the way he runs his offenses. It's going to help this run game because we're going to spread this defense out more that we're playing against, and we're not going to make it as predictable, right? 1st and 10, we're not always going to run the ball, right? We're going to prioritize getting chunk plays, making the defense hesitate and think, oh, shoot, if I commit, what if it's an RPO? What if he just hits a slant and he runs for 25 yards, right? So I think this is going to make the run game definitely – it's going to look different, I think, in 2026, but I think it's certainly going to be more successful. I'm not sure if the run game is going to be the priority. You look, establishing the run was the key to everything in the past couple of years under Beamer's tenure. The thing about Briles is you want to be able to run the ball, but you'll be able to run the ball by basically – how do I phrase this? You'll be able to run the ball by not forcing your offense to commit to it, by having that offense be able to pass it downfield, by be spreading out in space, right? It gives you the option. It's not predictable. And when it's not predictable, that's usually when you get an extra half second off the gun. You can jump the gun a little bit, and you can make those extra yards that we weren't able to get this past season. Now, I'm going to go ahead and bring up some highlights from Stan Drayton's coach running backs in 2024. So in 2024, Stan Drayton coached Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton at Penn State. That's the school he was at before he came to South Carolina. And the thing about that 2024 season, that magical year for them where they made the semifinals for the CFP, they both surpassed 1,000 yards on the ground. I mean, that's just wild to say. 2 1,000-yard rushers in one season. And then I'm just going to pull up some film right here, but Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton, but he's also done this in other places. Ezekiel Elliott at Ohio State, Bijan Robinson at Texas. And you look at the offenses Ohio State and Penn State ran when Stan Drayton was there. It was a version of the spread offense, right? A spread option, just spreading that defense out, which allows you to be able to run the ball more. So, I'm going to share screen, have some highlights. So this first play right here, I just brought up a few plays of Nicholas Singleton right here versus Bowling Green. This was when Stan Drayton was there. Now, they ran a type of spread offense at Penn State in 2024. You look at – they have the receivers out here, but look at where – this entire secondary is. Now, South Carolina fans, you will remember, usually all of these guys back here, almost 10 yards out, they're usually probably up here. If you look at the film from 2025, all three of these guys, these linebackers, these backers, they're usually up here, right behind them, right behind the defensive line. But you look at the fact that they're so far back because they don't know what they're going to do. You have 2 receivers here. You have a receiver at the bottom of the screen, making them defend the entire field. This alleviates a little bit of the pressure from the offensive line and the extra blocker you have right here. And what do? The guard pulls around, tight end Tyler Warren comes in. And what does Nicholas Singleton do? What does this do? Like I said before, it creates an open run lane right there between the left guard and the center. Open run lane. And what does he do? He takes advantage of it. That's a 15-yard gain right off the bat. I'll replay it for you. Look at all these guys back here. Alleviates a little bit of the pressure immediately on the offensive line. The guard and the tight end pull. Natural running lane. Right up, 15-yard play. Next play. Now this is, I think, something we'll see. Not saying this exact formation, but this style is something I think we'll see in 2026 under Kendall Briles' offense. You have 2 receivers at the very top, and you have 2 guys back here. Bowling Green has to defend this entire field, all right, from boundary to boundary. Now, South Carolina fans will remember it seemed like, especially when we got into the red zone, it was like we tried to cram everybody inside the hash marks, whether we had 2 running backs right here, 2 tight ends blocking right here, only 1 receiver out in the slot. But you have 4 wide receivers at the very edges of the field spreading this offense out. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 players who automatically can't really contribute immediately to defending the running back. Now you have your 4 guys obviously going after the offensive line. What are these 3 backers left to do? All right. Not only do they have to wait because you could potentially have one of the best backs in the country run the ball, but you have to defend all of this space right here. So you watch. He's trying to defend right here. He doesn't know. because he sees those receivers running here. Now, he obviously, right here, I'm going to pull up this. Ooh, hold on. Be back in just a second. This middle linebacker, he obviously took a step down to commit to the run real quick. Now, by the time that he realizes that he's actually bursting out, and so does this backer right here, all right, he gets the cut on the Texas route, and at that point, quarterback makes a great throw. Singleton already has the beat on it, and that's a touchdown for Penn State. And also, what I also like about this type of offense is even if Singleton wasn't open, all right, let's say the backers were a couple yards back, they predicted it, okay, they played it better. You got number 5 cutting in right here. All these guys are moving towards the end zone. He could have caught that, ran in. You have number 6 at the bottom right here. You can check down to him. You have a bunch of open space because everybody is farther back. They can't just come and blitz you, put pressure that immediately close right here. He could have ran too. So you have 1, 2, 3 easy options in case he isn't there to make the play. But of course he does, and that's a touchdown for Penn State. Just wait for this, and there's going to be one more. Shoot, I will. Okay, now you have 2 wide receivers spread out right here. Okay, it's 2 guys taken out. You've got a couple guys back here, some linebackers. You have an extra blocker in the backfield. And you also have Warren, the tight end, blocking as well. So what do? Obviously, they come off of the left side on Bowling Green's defense, trying to collapse in on the play. Now, Nicholas Singleton originally was going to hit for this weak side, all right? But obviously, he sees that there's nowhere to go. Now, because these receivers didn't immediately start run blocking the defenders, didn't do short routes over here. I mean, you look at this receiver, he's out of the screen. He's heading towards the boundary. And 1 second. So once he sees that he can't hit the weak side, what does he do? He bounces out to all of this open space. A bunch of open space was just created, and that's a touchdown for Penn State. Now, just a few of those plays. We could obviously go through this whole highlight reel and definitely look at a lot of things, but just those 3 plays right there are certainly some of the things that make me excited about this offense, because you look at what Stan Drayton's running backs have been able to do, and you combine that with an offensive coordinator who loves to spread that defense outward, that can help the run game in that way, and you bring in an offensive line coach who's worked with Briles before, it's definitely a lot of positive signs for this offense, and certainly a run game revival for this Stan Drayton coach running backs in this ground attack in 2026. Now, that's kind of the main points we've hit today. One more thing I want to mention is the transfer portal opens January 2nd, and it doesn't close till January 16th. So that 2-week window that's coming soon, very soon, it's going to be crucial, absolutely crucial to who this team will be heading into this do-or-die season for Beamer and Co. Now, unlike years past, however, the NCAA has made this the lone portal window. This 2-week period will be absolutely crucial for Shane Beamer heading into the season, because you don't get that spring portal window after spring practice, which is a good thing and also a bad thing. I'd say certainly it's more of a good thing to get rid of it. I think the positives of removing it outweigh the negatives. But these next couple weeks are going to be huge for South Carolina. Who can they retain? Who can they get from the portal? There's certainly a lot of guys, and we'll be doing a deep dive next episode into a bunch of portal targets that I've personally seen and I think will be good. There's a lot of positions we need help at, especially the secondary. That interior defensive line would certainly be good to get. Running backs, offensive linemen. There's going to be a lot of position groups that we're going to need to hit in 2026 if we want a successful 26 season. But So that's something we'll be hitting next episode next week, Monday, December 29th, same time as this podcast started, 7 p.m. But also during the days where I'm not live, follow my X account. If you haven't heard already, or if you just started watching, WG Sports _CFB. That's where you get daily and hourly and oftentimes minutely updates to who's leaving, who's coming in, big news with college football, especially South Carolina football. But with that being said, it's been a great episode today. It was South Carolina Live 34 at the Voice of College Football. It's been an eventful offseason for Shane Beamer, for this program in Columbia, and especially the fan base as a total, watching these monumental revamps and changes being made to this South Carolina team. Right now, I know we just finished 4-8. I know that there's a lot of uncertainty. What if we don't hit our portal targets? I know we're a good recruiter, but you never know, right? What if Sterling Lucas's departure has a bigger impact than what we hope happens? A lot of unknowns and uncertainties are here right now. However, I'm still very positive based off of what we've seen so far, based off of who Shane Beamer brought in for South Carolina, who he's brought into the melting pot, which I think will make the perfect concoction for 2026 with a guy like Lenore Sellers at quarterback. Speaking of Lenore Sellers, he did announce today that he's returning. He did a nice video on X. I think it might be on Instagram as well. I encourage you to go watch it. I certainly admire his loyalty to this program. Obviously, no doubt there's other programs that probably wanted him, right? I mean, obviously, he's heard the reports midseason from somebody saying Miami, he was going to go to Miami. Obviously, we know there's probably a bunch of schools we don't know about that probably offered him a ton of money and opportunity as well. But for him to stay home, to ride it out with South Carolina for what's probably going to be his last season, especially if it's successful, close to what it was, or if not better than 2024. He's definitely been a guy who I've loved to see. He's going to be one of my favorite players looking back 20 years from now. And I certainly admire his loyalty in staying. And I think the fact that your starting quarterback is staying is probably going to be at least a small factor in a lot of the decision-making process for other guys like Nick Harbor, Donovan Murph, Vendravius Jacobs, a lot of those other guys. I think having your quarterback come back is going to be a factor as well. So I think it's not just good for him and just a testimony to his character and his loyalty in an era where I could probably start just listing quarterbacks who've entered the portal, notable ones, and I could probably be talking for at least 2 minutes, just listing names. That's how many quarterbacks have entered. Byron Brown from USF, Ashton Daniels of Auburn, just a few just like today or yesterday. It's very appreciative of the loyalty we've seen from Sellers in an era of college football where that is not often found. So I'm happy Lenoris is staying. I'm happy for this offense based off of what we've seen so far in the past. Now it's time to see what we do in the portal. We have to attack. And we have to see this materialize, see this team grow and develop through spring practice, see if we can get some more vocal leaders in the team as well, something you didn't really see much of last season. You didn't see those very vocal leaders when times got tough like you saw in years past. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things materialize. If they do, I think they will. Kind of just one of those things as a South Carolina fan. I swear we go 4-8, but my heart's already bought back into it. So that's South Carolina Live, episode 34 at the Voice of College Football. Please share the video. No doubt you have friends who also love Gamecock football. Follow me on X for hourly, daily, and even minutely updates and posts. And also, if you have any questions regarding South Carolina football, regarding anything about it, regarding the NIL, the renovations of the stadium, transfer portal targets, is there someone that you have in mind who you think would be a great fit? Please comment those in the comment section. I would love to answer them next episode. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'll definitely send a post similar to what I just said on X in the coming days and throughout the week. So I encourage you to just comment any questions. I'd be happy to answer, and I will answer them next Monday. But with that being said, Christmas is in a few days. I hope you all have safe travels. Merry Christmas. It's been a great episode. Happy to see it. And go Gamecocks.